I am such a huge admirer of your work, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
What you did on Studio 666 with BJ, that basement, the way you lit that basement, and then the tiny little corridor along the side of the house, the stairs going into the basement, those lighting contrast and your camera angles are stunning. Stunning
Oh, thank you.
in Studio 666. Yeah, BJ and I got carried away talking about your work in that film. Uh,
No, yeah, BJ's amazing. I mean, he's such a great guy.
but
Great director.
and then having seen that a number of years ago, I saw the Hive. I'm starting to wonder about you though, Michael. Supernatural elements with Brightburn, demons, in the Hive and Studio 666. Here we have college students. They're their own demonic presence. So I'm starting to wonder what you're attracted to.
Right? Well, sometimes you're attracted to what's attracted to you, I guess, huh?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, I love what you've done with Emergency. I really love what you've done because this looks like a straightforward, dramatic film right in Carrie's wheelhouse of societal issues and the human condition. But you then get a chance to really play, and people really can get enthralled with just the first half of the film as Sean and Kunle, as Sean is laying out his party plan, and we are going into each one of these frat house parties. And you just, boy, you got to have the time of your life there, Michael, because you've got the blackout party, you've got the green room, you've got the theta party, the tri-fi's, equinox, underground, and every single one is lit and shot differently. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've known Carrie since like 2003, so almost like 18 years now, more than 18 years, and we started off shooting a bunch of music videos like on the weekends, which we found bands and rap groups that wanted music videos, and we would just shoot music videos. So that was actually the easiest, funnest part for us of the film was to do the frat parties, because it was like just going back to our music video roots of just like making stuff look cool,
And you absolutely did. And your music video background shows in that sequence with those parties, and especially with the creativity with the lighting. I mean, when you get to go in there with the black light and the neon that looks so cool, and then the Equinox room, which you think it's one thing, and then you turn the camera and it's very dreamy and smoky and fantasy filled with that almost golden brown wash and lighting as a contrast to what we've seen as the boys were coming down the hall mesmerized. Just each one has a completely different design to it, lighting and lensing design.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just stunning. When you saw this script and you and Carrie started working this out, did all of those just pop into your head at the same time for what to do for those?
A little. I mean, the thing is that I've again working with Carrie for such a long time, I knew everything was going to be visual and have such a cool pop to it. And working with our production designer, Jeremy Woodward, it was like a great, like, it was one of those where we could just throw out ideas, and like every idea was like sounding like, oh, that's great, yeah, and then we could, what if the whole wall would be green? Oh yeah, that's so awesome, It's just all these like funny ideas that were coming out that were just like so much fun. I mean, I knew those were going to be like a fantasy, so I kind of already was kind of licking my chops on it to like say like, okay, this will be fun.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned the green room with the green walls, because at first blush you think it's green paint or green wallpaper, and then as Donald and RJ in character, as they're touching the wall, you see it's fabric, and
Yeah.
it moves away. And I love how the camera picks that up. Real, we can see the different green texturing in that room, in that hallway, with the camera. And I'm guessing it's because you were shooting with the Panaspeeds.
Yeah, and you know, we did the contrast. You know, we created a contrast to really, because the other thing that we realized too when I started testing was that I couldn't do all the green light, because all green light made everything look weird. So there's actually, the light that's on them is like an amber.
Wow.
And so I think that, along with like, you know, the contrast of those lenses really helped like bring a lot of that out.
Because you can really see texture, and the colors do pop. You know, in all of these rooms. Now that begs the question: when you said you couldn't do a green wash, now when you get into some of the others that are all red, were you able to just use red light, or did you have to use a contrast light?
Yeah, no, on the red one, I went all full red. There was actually like a meaning behind that room, especially towards the end. You know, when Sean is kind of in the party and they're, you know, have just gotten, you know, pulled out of the car and all that stuff. It's basically like the red of that room is basically it's the emergency room sign, the red emanating on him.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's kind of where we were like, oh, this has to be red because this is basically that on him. And all I really did on that to make it not feel like weird is just bring it from just add the contrast. So we just couldn't have red everywhere. So it was just like, okay, red, and then turn these off so that we have black. So it was just red. It is monochromatic in the way that it was just red and black.
Now I'm curious, in the green room, because there are also bubbles that start floating. Were they real bubbles, or did Carrie add those in with VFX? Because the iridescence on them is stunning.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're actually called flubbles. So they have a fog in the bubbles.
Wow.
So like, you know, our VFX, our special effects crew had a great time because we basically were like, what kind of cool stuff do you have? And the guy was like, I got this thing called flubbles. You'll love it. It's fog inside the bubbles. Because there's a little bit of fog in there. It picks up the color.
They're beautiful.
Than just a regular bubble would. Yeah. Oh, they were awesome. We were playing with them for hours. It was hilarious.
Okay, why do I think there was a lot of playing going on this set, Michael?
Because, you know, this is like our dreams. Like we are loving what we're able to. We're loving what we're able to do. You know, happy that we're able to do it, and you know, I think that's kind of it was the overall like feel. I think in the production, everyone was just having a good time with great people. That, you know, we were making something that, you know, in the end too was very serious to us. I mean, especially the hospital scene was, you know, very much one of those days where we were having fun, but we were very serious in it, and we could tell that, you know, there were times where, hey, all right, the actors are doing their thing, let's give them their space, and you know, and respect the situation. But you know, afterwards it was just kind of like this great joy of, you know, being able to make things with people that is something that, you know, we get a chance to do, which is, I think, is, you know, amazing.
That's always key. And it shows in the work when you're doing something you love doing. It does,
Exactly.
it comes out in the end product. And here you've got these fun moments, the party moments. You even got Maddie has her own party moment. And of course, her party is very much, it's, it's got natural lighting in there. You can see what's happening. It's not all cloaked, more or less, like Sean's big idea to hit all 7 parties in one night, which is kind of
Right.
a cloak and dagger kind of thing he's got going. But the subject matter, the way that societal issues are brought into play here, where you've got Kunle, Sean, and Carlos trying to do something good, especially Kunle, and try and help this girl. But here again, because they're brown, they're not white, it's like, no, you guys are doing something bad. And you really capture that, and we feel that thanks to your camera work, Michael, because you give us a lot of angles that are a lot of close-ups in this film, a lot of close-ups, and some really nice ECUs, especially in that third act on Donald Elise Watkins' face, as
Hmm.
as terror and panic is setting in. That I'm just trying to save the girl's life, and I'm the one with my face in the pavement right now and a gun on my head. The use of close-ups is so well done. And similarly, so much of this film is shot in the back of a van.
Yeah.
Herculean effort on your part, Michael, because shooting in a car is never easy anyway.
It's not. And
Talk
sorry.
to
Go
me
ahead.
about that challenge with this one, because
Yeah.
not only do you have 4 people in the van, and eventually we get 3 more people in the van, but
Hmm.
you're doing CPR in there on a small seat, and so you've got to navigate. And I think this was a wise choice on your part to go with your Alexa Mini LF and use the Panaspeeds, because of you can get that really close focus, and then they've got that anti-breathing control, so as you're trying to change your focal length, you're not losing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a big reason. Like, Carrie really wanted, certain intimacy to happen, to almost have the audience feel like they're part of the journey
Mm-hmm.
that's happening with these kids. And so for me, I felt like with the LF and the fan speeds, I was able to actually, like, get closer to the actors without having a distortion that made it feel like they would separate you from the reality of it and made you just feel more like you were there. And like you said, like in the car, like it's interesting. The van was all shot on an LED stage,
Mm-hmm.
because it was just going to be budget, not budget friendly to do it on process trailer.
Yeah.
So everything was done LED stage, and it worked out for us. But even then, having the smaller size of the camera and the close focus ability made us feel like we're in the van with the guys traveling and everything. And that was a big thing, is just kind of not feeling like you're looking into this world, feeling like they were part of, like the audience is part of the world. And I think that's how we were able to, finding these interesting frames. And then also, one of the things I did with the mostly between Kunle and Sean is that I used slightly different lenses on each one for close-ups. So what happens is it changes the perspective. Like, they both have a different perspective on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so their perspective in their frame is a little bit different than the others. And it's just enough to, like, the head sizes are about the same size, but what they see around them is a little different. It's either they're a little more blurry, or you see a little more, or so forth.
You can pick that up in the periphery with each one of them.
Exactly.
And I mean, Kunle is so focused. Whether he's looking in a microscope, whether he's in the van focusing on providing CPR to Emma, he's very, very, very focused. But then Sean it's a clearer periphery that we have with him because he's looking everywhere but what's right in front of him.
Yeah.
No, that
Yeah.
it really comes across nicely, Michael.
It's a subtle way of doing, to show that like, you add all the elements in it, and it kind of blends in nicely without being, in your face.
Mm-hmm.
If it's different, I felt like it was a nice way of really giving each character just a little bit of, unique
Mm-hmm.
feeling to their perspective.
Well, and it works with the story. It's very metaphoric,
Mm-hmm.
not only in how they perceive the world, but in how they see themselves. Kunle
Yeah.
does see himself as being the responsible, focused one, and Sean's a party animal. He wants to grab whatever is out there in the world. So I love the decision that you made because it really does work, not only visually but emotionally for the story and the characters.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
What kind of lighting rigs did you use, with that van? Because I don't care if you're on an LED stage, but man, you've still got a small amount of space with all those bodies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, most of the light came from outside. We had some LED units just out of frame outside. They were tracking kind of like streetlights would, and then we had some that were just a little ambient light. And then occasionally we would put a small LED unit inside of the van whenever I needed like light from the center or something.
Mm-hmm.
And actually some of them, we were just able to push, especially on the close-ups. Then I would bring bigger units in, like a 4x4 Chimera, or like a sky panel through a 4x4 to just kind of like give a little more wrap on one of the actors. They were doing the close-ups. But like I love contrast, and Carrie also loves contrast. So we, there's moments where we're like, is this too dark? We're like, nah, it's great. We were really liking those, and a lot of those moments was like, it shouldn't all be lit. Like there's some dark stuff happening here, and sometimes you don't see everything. So maybe that works with what we're trying to say.
And it was happening at night. The bulk of this film is happening at night. And
33 days.
Were you shooting
Actually,
night?
30,
Did you shoot night
all
for
night.
night? Wow.
Yeah, I think we shot like the last 3 days were actual day / like the first day was a day, and then the second day was a split.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the last 3 days were probably a day and split, but the rest of the film were 6 p.m. calls.
So, well, that explains why then on the shoots on the road, when they're getting out of the van and when we've got people on bicycles and motorized skateboards, this is why you can see that moisture in the night air.
Mm-hmm.
As you got the camera, as you're pointing it down the road or outside the 6 feet perimeter around the minivan, you can see the moisture hanging in the air. And it's very effective. And it really adds, after we've already seen the white people on their lawn with the Black Lives Matter sign, but they're filming everything.
Yeah.
It's a humorous moment. It's sad commentary, but it's a humorous moment. But after that, it helps with the oppressive nature of conveying society. And it looks great. I got to tell you, it looks great to see that hanging in the air all around them. Those little touches, Michael, really impressed me with this film.
Thank you. Yeah, and part of that we took into the actual LED stages because we didn't have the best LED setup.
Mm-hmm.
So you can easily break and look fake
Mm-hmm.
found. So one thing that I did to help separate that is like we actually would our on-set dresser would actually mist all the windows right before we rolled. So he had like a like a spray mister, and he would just spray mist on the windows, and it created that texture in between the two, the LED wall and the actors. So it kind of helped add an additional like refraction of light, and also that little feeling of haze in between them.
Yeah, which is what you get on your windows with temper differential when you're breathing and panting in the car. And you've got the different temperature outside. Every kid in the world has lived for things like that because you could draw on the windows with your fingers.
Yeah.
These are the little touches that really elevate emergency, Michael. They're visual touches. The story is what it is, the performances are solid, but it's your work that really elevates this and adds metaphor and meaning to it. And I really appreciate the detail that you have given it.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean it's something that when I first read the project, I was like a little scared because I'm like I got so much that I want to make sure that I do it justice. There's so much in there in general. So yeah, we put a lot of hard work. I put a lot of hard work in. We all did. My whole crew did. I was just, and it was definitely something that has been. I tell people all the time, it's like you work really hard and you hope that the fruits of your labor are ripe and delicious, and it's great when they are.
With blocking and actual rehearsal time on this for camera purposes and lighting purposes, we've got a lot of stuff that's happening down on the floor levels here, Michael. We've got people passed out on floors, vomiting on floors in bathrooms, vomiting in toilets, down on the floor, outside a hospital. How is that for you when you see something in a script? Especially this one, was it scripted in there? Okay, down on the floor. Because you could very easily have just angled the camera down. You could have just dutched it down, but you didn't.
Yeah.
You had the camera on the floor, eye level, with a lot of this. So I'm curious, how did you and Carrie come up with that?
It came through a lot of just us talking about the situations. About how we can make this feel. Also, like we needed to respect the situation in general, but also make it feel like someone can actually like see it transparently and not think it's a heavy-handed commentary per se. What I mean? We don't want to specifically be like, they have to be scared of the police. It's just kind of like, this has happened and this is why people are scared. One of the things that that came up through us workshopping that scene, because actually that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Was one of the most difficult scenes, but it was one of my scenes in the movie I was looking forward to shooting because I knew there was so much there. And one of the things we did, I don't know if you noticed, is that I kind of took my horror background with me, and I said, hey, how about instead of us seeing the police, we never really see them. We use them like the shark in Jaws. Like
we see feet.
We see maybe a piece of them, the feet, maybe their jaw saying freeze. The gun, when he points the gun at Kunle, the very tip of the barrel is in focus.
Yeah.
And he's completely out of focus, and that's mostly to kind of feel like there's a force, and it's kind of right. It's like a double meaning. It's like there's a force that they're worried about, and that it's the police force. Things like that really brought that scene, I feel, together. Like also with like the color, like we said, traditionally in the South, I think they have blue lights on their cops. But we wanted to go red and blue because we also have the white from the building. So we had red, white, and blue, which is like, this is America. Right? So that symbolized that. And then Carrie just really also wanted to be like, I want to feel what it's like to be on the ground with this guy. So, you know, it made sense. We want to be under there. We want to be literally pressed against the ground too with him.
Yeah.
And that was part of the experience of, you know, and the, again, respecting the situation of like, wow, this is real. This has happened. So that's kind of like a lot of where that came from. We really wanted to feel his pain, and be down there with him. And some of that stuff we ended up using, like Dan Sasaki at Panavision, he like modified a Periscope lens for me.
Oh, wow.
So that we could get a right angle, because basically in the van and other places, maybe we couldn't get the right angle.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for instance, if for him doing CPR in the van, when you're looking up at him,
Mm-hmm.
that was the Periscope lens, because to get the camera there, we would have needed to cut a hole in the floorboard, and that wasn't going to happen because we only had 2 vans, and one of them was built for stunts and so forth. So we weren't cutting anything. So we used the right angle Periscope to be able to get us into like places like that. Also get us really low to the ground and be able to cheat or achieve some of those angles that really kind of place you in the moment.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what I find interesting is the way the film is bookended, because the first time we're on the floor is with white girl Emma, who's passed out and throwing up. And then the third act, we have Kunle now face down on the floor. So I really love that bookend, how kind of the quote unquote the tables have turned.
Yeah.
And despite his best efforts through the entire film to help this girl, the tables still turned. I love the choices that you made. But that modification of the Periscope lens, that's terrific. Because I was I was wondering, can you even get the camera that flat? Can you in the van? Because what we're seeing, his hands on Emma's chest, that you would have had you would have, in order to fit in there. Yeah, there's not enough knee space. You couldn't have even been on your knees. You would have had to cut a hole in the bottom to get down there without that lens. Just so well done from a lighting and lensing standpoint, Michael. You didn't just shoot this. You made the cinematography part of the storytelling.
Thank you. I mean, that's what I would always hope for, I guess, you know?
You know, what do you even look for in a script? I mean, something like, Brightburn, and of course, Studio 666. Of course, who's going to turn that down when you're getting to work with the Foo Fighters?
Right.
But, what do you look for in a script?
Yeah. I look for, one of the main things I look for is, like, I tell people this all the time, is that every project takes a piece of you,
Mm-hmm.
and I only want to work on the ones that are deserving of that piece, right? And for me to be deserving of that piece, because you're going to take, not only my personal time away, but like my, from my family, from whatever, from other things, from just general life, not being at home and stuff. Is it like for me, for instance, shooting Emergency, I think is very important, and it was worth all the sacrifices I had to make it, because I think people will see it, and it will give them an awareness to and a willingness to want to have a conversation with others, and not just feel like they've been talked down to or whatever. And I think that's important in telling these stories that really resonate with a lot of folks. But then also I'm able to bring my artistry to life, which is for me, as as a young kid from the urban neighborhoods of Los Angeles is just a complete dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anything anyone from the neighborhoods that I grew up in think of, like, oh, I'm gonna grow up to be a cinematographer. I'm gonna go get paid to play make believe.
Since nobody grows up saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to be a cinematographer." What made you want to be a cinematographer?
So when I was 15, when I was in high school, I was in a performing arts group called Colors United, and there was a documentary filmed about us called Colors Straight Up. It was nominated for an Academy Award in 1997, I want to say, for best full-length documentary. And I just watched them, what they were doing, and I realized I was already kind of doing that stuff with myself. Like, I had my dad's camera, and I was making little shorts and things like that, and I finally realized this is something like I could actually do. And a friend of mine, I told him how cool I thought it was, and he was already going to college, and he was like, "Hey, you want to come and PA on some shoots? We'll go." And he took me on my first shoot. It was actually Justin Lin's thesis film, Shopping for Fangs, I believe it was called, at UCLA. And then from then on, I was just like, all right, okay, I was just PAing as much as I could, building my knowledge and learning things, and going, went to LACC for film school, and then I started working at Panavision in like 2001, and I actually worked at Panavision for 18 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I built a lot of great relationships there, but then I also built a lot of technical knowledge that I used into my that I used to my art, for my artistry. It was like, now I know how to manipulate things technically. So how do I use them in my art?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, well, I think you have learned technically, and you are using them in your art. This, what I've seen from you with the 3 films of yours that I've seen, you definitely have married technical ability and artistry.
Oh, thank you, Debbie.
So now, what's next for you?
I did a TV series with Ava DuVernay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a romantic drama, no demons.
Wow.
It's called Cherish the Day, and that should be out this summer.
Oh, well, I'm definitely going to have to look for that one. Just to see what you do with no demons, no oppression.
Yeah.
Is it shot in daylight?
Yeah, there's a lot of daylight, a lot of day exteriors. It was definitely it was good to do because like kind of like you said, it was like you're doing all this like night and horror stuff, and it was nice to do that project. And then in the meantime, right now, I'm just, reading scripts and taking meetings and looking for the next thing that's going to take a piece of my life.
As long as it gives you back a piece, for every piece it takes, it should be giving something back to you. And I can hear in your voice that it definitely does.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah.
Oh, Michael, this has been so lovely getting to talk to you today. I hope we get to do it again in the future. Maybe after maybe after Ava's movie comes out this summer. I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Michael, thank you so much. And hopefully we will talk sooner rather than later.
Yes, thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Michael, you have a great night.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.